Check 1, 2, 3. Check 1, 2. Check 1. Check 1, 2, 3. Check 1, 2, 3. Check 1, 2, 3.
Check. Assalamualaikum, selamat pagi semua. Boleh saya minta para hadirin untuk tenangkan ruang hadapan? Saya minta tolong kan kita ke hadapan sebab banyak ruang. Yang baru sampai pun boleh tenangkan kerusi di sebelah hadapan dulu ya. Terima kasih. Boleh line ke 3 boleh, ke 2 boleh. Start di situ. Okey, boleh silakan. Staff-staff pun boleh ke hadapan. Hello, welcome to everyone who's just arrived. You can fill in the front seats first. Hello, good morning to everyone who's just arrived. I ask you to please fill in the front seats first. Thank you. We have so many available seats in front. Thank you. Selamat datang para hadirin yang baru sampai. Boleh pindah ke ruangan hadapan dulu ya. Terima kasih. Majlis kita akan bermula sebentar lagi. Pada staf-staf juga boleh pindah ke ruangan hadapan ya. Ya, selamat datang. Sila penuhkan ruangan hadapan. Hadirin untuk mengambil tempat masing-masing dan menetapkan telefon bimbit dalam mod senyap. Please take your seats and we shall begin in a bit. Kepada para hadirin yang baru tiba, boleh mengambil tempat di bahagian hadapan auditorium. Terima kasih. To everyone who's just arrived, please fill in the front seats first. Thank you. Mengumumkan ketibaan Encik Amiruddin bin Ahmad, Ketua Pengarah Lembaga Pembangunan Seni Visual Negara. Selamat datang dan salam sejahtera. Assalamualaikum semua. Dengan ini saya ingin menjemput moderator kita dan para panel untuk terus ke pentas bagi sesi perkongsian kita. Dipersilakan. Yang berusaha Encik Amiruddin bin Ahmad, Ketua Pengarah Lembaga Pembangunan Seni Visual Negara. Yang berusaha Encik Baktiar Naim bin Jaafar, Pengarah Bahagian Pengurusan Pameran, Koleksi dan Konservasi. Para hadirin yang dihormati sekalian. Terlebih dahulu, saya ingin mengucapkan selamat datang ke sesi perkongsian kita pada hari ini yang bertajuk Bold Night Shadows of Wanita Sulawesi. Bagi pihak Balai Seni Negara, kami amat berbesar hati dan mengalu-alukan kehadiran para hadirin yang sudi bersama kami pada hari ini. Saya Nia Sabjan, selaku pengacara majlis anda pada pagi ini. Untuk maklumi para hadirin, sesi perkongsian ini menampilkan dua panel jemputan, iaitu Dr. K. Azrul Ismail dan Encik Azrul K. Abdullah yang akan berkongsi pandangan serta kepakaran mereka berkaitan topik yang akan dibincangkan. Tanpa melengahkan masa, majlis dengan penuh hormatnya menjemput Yang Berbahagia Profesor Media Dr. Jamili Abdul Hassan selaku moderator program untuk memulakan sesi perkongsian untuk hari ini. Dipersilakan.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin wassalatu wassalamu ala asrofil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi washabbihi ajma'in. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh. Selamat pagi and a very good morning to all of you who willing to come to this rare occasion. To me, it's a very rare occasion, being able to listen, interrogate, to question, to meet these two our honorable panel, Dr. Azrul and Dr. Azril and Encik Azril and Azrul on their adventure. I would call it adventure. I read the book semalam on this borrowed light, and I think that's my first encounter with the book, which have not been launched yet. It's launched today. Oh yeah. I found a copy dekat Ilham, but I wait for this moment so I know I get a complimentary copy. Cheap sikit tu. Anyway, I'm honored to be here. When Dr. Azri called me to moderate this discussion, I thought it was a open lecture kind of a session. Little did I know that it's more than just a open lecture. It could be a very interesting. I told him yesterday, I said, let's not call it a open lecture, but we trigger a question, we trigger probably a diabolical assumption maybe on the topic of the bridge, the light. Because the way I see it, it's a very interesting trilogy, if you want. Because we have a painting, we have a photography, and we have a print. The painting obviously called Wanita Sulawesi by nama susah nak pronounce, by young Frank. I stop there before I make a mistake or before I mispronounce. And the origin of the photography was commissioned by I think it was commissioned to Lambert, J.R. Lambert, yeah? And the silk screen was done by our renowned artist Reza Pradasa called the Wanita Melayu, Dua Wanita Melayu. Then after I read the book, I find it so fascinating that there's a drama, there's a episode where I think most of us, especially in the Malaysian art scene, never could have imagined that the genealogy of the work asal usul gitu, dia punya susul kalau itu sebenarnya deeper than what we thought, or maybe we never thought of that at all. And Dr. Azrul dengan Azrul has managed to offer us a very interesting investigation or research on this research and discovery. So I think today's discussion, we are not going to be critical on who's the original producer of the work or the image, but rather we are looking at the broader context to see whether or not, I think, in my opinion, to see whether or not this iconic image of two Malay women or Wanita Sulawesi or even Batavia lady, is it Wanita? Yeah. So tiga nama yang saya rasa bermain di my head, and hopefully to get Dr. Azrul can shed a light on this borrowed light. Yeah? Then we can go along with the question later on, but good to have an introduction to this both of our panel. Dr. Azrul is a good friend of mine. I would call him an independent researcher, and obviously he's an artist first and foremost. And I don't know dia datang daripada mana. Meaning I met him when we were in Aswara, when I was on certain occasion was invited to be one of the exhibitor at Aswara exhibition, and I had an interview with Aswara, and he was one of my interviewer. And apart from that, we occasionally made in art exhibition, even a panel of judges for art science, if I'm not mistaken. And from there, we established a very interesting, bukan hubungan sulit, but very interesting perjumpaan secara diam-diam. And I won't go further on that description on Dr. Azrul. And next to me is a very interesting artist juga, saya punya artist juga, I will call them both artists, and a photographer, Encik Azrul. And I call Azrul, Dr. Azrul semalam, I said, Azrul, can you give me a little bit about Dr. Azrul, about Azrul? And he said, he's my partner in crime, something like that, ataupun my voice, suara dalaman yang dia selalu bercakap. That's a very interesting description about a person. And mind you, tiga botak atas stage ni, that's another coincidence, ataupun another by default, never trust tiga botak on stage. And without further ado, let me pass this mic or this to Dr. Azrul. I know he's very keen on doing a very interesting introduction about this journey of his and both of them. Silakan, Dr. Azrul.
Can you hear me? All good, thank you. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum, salam sejahtera dan juga selamat pagi. A very good morning to ladies and gentlemen, my dearest friends. Banyak sahabat kat sini, lama tak jumpa dan juga seperti macam balik kampung juga at times. So, allow me to speak dalam dua bahasa ataupun most of it is going to be engaged in English just as well. Well, without further delay, it's going to be a slides that is going to be presented. So we would actually entail what is borrowed light that is on its entirety. So there's a video piece that's been done for 5 minutes. If there's any volume, good. Ada. Is there a volume to this? I'm not hearing volume. Ada sound, yeah? There's no sound to this. Okay. Excellent.
Often one wonders what happens when an image forgets its name. When I first stood before the painting long once Wanita, Sulawesi, at the Agung Museum of Art 2 years ago, there was a sense of disquieted words which could not be explained. On its surface it was calm, two women seated in quiet composure, yet beneath that stillness there was something restless, as if the painting itself wanted to tell another story. That was the beginning of the borrowed light journey. For decades, they existed as subjects in a painting that carried the wrong name. Now, they return as historical presences, situated, contextualized, and recognized. The process of uncovering that truth was less archaeological than spiritual. It required stillness, the kind of quiet that modern culture seems afraid of. Today, we are surrounded by spectacle, galleries, and museums that glow with immersive projections, paintings now immersed with sound and motion. But the power of true work lies not in its noise, it lies in its capacity to hold silence. Memang kalau kita sadari memang museum itu untuk studi ya sangat penting untuk studi karya seseorang yang bisa mencapai puncaknya. Studi atau riset itu sangat penting mengidentifikasi ya tekniknya, media yang dia pakai, pendekatan dia pakai. Ini kan sangat penting untuk pendidikan, untuk akademis ya, untuk anak-anak yang sekuler ya. Tidak asal menerima, tetapi apa sih bedanya Jongfrang dengan Waterspeace, Jongfrang dengan Bonnet, kan masing-masing punya apa namanya potensi, teknik yang berbeda, media yang dipakai berbeda. How to identify? Ini yang sangat penting, genuinitas karya melalui riset. Maka apa yang Anda lakukan ini sangat penting untuk bangsa, negara, dan juga untuk museum, dan untuk bertanggung jawab terhadap publik dan terhadap akademisi. Inilah museum itu untuk studi. Maka harus kerjasama. Tidak boleh, saya pun tidak boleh. Kita harus terbuka untuk pendidikan, untuk riset, untuk menarasinya, dan macam-macam. Itu menjadikan penting kita kembali memberikan kepercayaan pada mata untuk memandang, menghayati, sekaligus pada saat yang sama kita mensumberkan mata itu dalam memandang. Selama ini memang itu menghilangkan keseluruhan dari karya. Pada sebelum makna atau setelah makna, kadang-kadang kita membutuhkan terulang kembali untuk membaca permukaan sekaligus juga kedalaman dari tersebut. Karena permukaan itulah kedalaman dari sebuah karya. Jadi kalau mengabaikan permukaan, berarti sesungguhnya menghilangkan kedalaman itu sendiri. Somewhere along this chain, a Dutch painter named Jan van Mansverdrecht copied that image onto a wooden panel. We see it as a journey of images. In tracing that journey, we began to see how the act of naming can alter the moral temperature of an artwork. To call something of Sulawesi when its origin was elsewhere, which could not be a mistake, we soon discovered that the painting was not true from Sulawesi at all. Its title had traveled. The composition came from a photograph. We framed it, retitled, and repurposed. That, what we believe, is the work's quiet gift to us, to remind us that meaning, like light, must first pass through the shadows before it reveals itself.
Well, it's a very Balinese spirit right there. Okay, I would like to begin on the discovery about this. This was in 2023, in which I had walked into the space of the Arma Museum. And of course, you have the gargantuous Radin Saleh's painting, wonderful piece of work. And I turned aside and said, hey, they have a Red Zapiadasa's work. Terkejut kaget. Jadi, and I was really excited. I said, wow, they have a Malaysian artist. So when I walked closer, it's not. It's another person's name. A very unfamiliar name by the name of Jan van Mansverdrecht. Not an easy pronunciation, mind you. This is a Dutch painter. So when the curiosity gets greater, it's like, how is it so alike? I mean, I'm sure some of you, or most of you, have seen Piadasa's work, and when something that is vividly here, and actually there was a circa date right there that it's likely in 1920s upon investigation and so forth. So when I look at it, it's like, okay, who is Jan van Mansverdrecht? I mean, that's a very unfamiliar name because it's obscure in history. Looking into, there are many variants of Dutch artists that exist in Indonesia, granted. The thing about the Dutch artists, they are very much pro towards the muy indie methodologies in terms of their approach. It's something that they've been adapting since mid-19th century or 1860 and so forth. So looking into his background, it's pretty much that he was born in 1885, grew up, and actually he returned back to at the Hague Academy of Art, and in which he took in various mentorship under prominent Dutch artists, which is Andries van Berg, Frits Janssen, and so forth. As we knew during that same time, there is a modernist movement that is upcoming and rising as well. So there is a great amount of influence. Now, knowing the Hague, they do classical paintings first, conventional, traditional painting, because that's what they do. They will teach the artists to paint. You have the watercolorists, you have the oil painters, because their task is actually to furnish the colonial expansions and the illustrations that occurs in many various mass media forms. So they have a task for that. That's what the muy indie has, a certain purpose towards that. Then he came back to Batavia, which is the old name for Jakarta, and actually continue on his work from there. There he became a painter, pretty much also serving as an artist, but there are some liminality or strange about his work, because one thing for sure, when I look into Christie's collections and background of his paintings, I could not recognize a pattern. I mean, like, this is his work. This is his sort of way, portfolio. If you see one painting to the next, you can't recognize it came from the same artist. Because you have like a whole variance of things. Of course, the upper part is pretty much a muy indie style. And then, of course, you have the Wanita Sulawesi. And then the the Director General of a painting itself, pretty much a realistic painting, and then goes back, and then there's an experimental painting of the laborer, and then you have the lithograph wood block printing, and so forth. So there is a bit of mishmash of everything. It's something that I would expect to see coming from an art student, sophomore year. You are there to seek a certain values or stylization, but I believe that he goes back as an educator. That's where he took a role as well, pretty much taking care of modern art. There's something odd as well in terms of how Indonesian art movement works. Even up to during the Japanese invasion of World War II, they do have the freedom to do artwork, unlike on our side of the water here. So that means modern art movement keeps on perpetual. The Dutch painters would bring in modernist painters and so forth. So there is a subterranean area in terms of improvement in terms of the artwork. So, okay. So the painting is a certain value of interest. So it took 2 years of going in and out of Bali, which is a wonderful opportunity as well for me to understand. And we had a few occasions, we took the painting down, we did a calculation, we even threw in infrared photography into play because I just want to know what is laying underneath of the same painting. Interview with Pak Agung Rai, the founder, and also some of the curators that involved. And they do have their suspicion in regards to the origin because they did say something is off about this particular painting because they don't look like Wanita Sulawesi because the fashion is different, the accessories that they wear is way different, but they do take into place because they acquire this painting from Germany. Was it Germany, Azra? Mm-hmm. Correct. So it was being sold at The Hague. So he brought it back in 1983 and hung it in the Arma Museum since. So there is no, how should we say, there are no changes there, and it was being titled as Wanita Sulawesi in Bahasa Indonesia, and then it's also being titled as Portrait of a Woman, a Sulawesi woman. So there is a bit of a jargon there, but it's quite forgiving. So then, once we had to look at it, I studied the surface of this painting, which is quite an interesting bit, because actually, it's not that I'm saying that I'm a subject matter expert in terms of conservation or preservation, but I do take a very close look into the surface damage that occurs all throughout this painting. Because how we know about Bali is pretty much an island. It's a very temperate weather, and of course, it's not climate control, ideally, but it's controlled by climate. So we see there's a lot of surface damage that occurs all over this painting. Now, the medium is oil on board. Usually, by principle, oil painting adheres to the wood fiber very closely compared to canvas. But for some reason, this one starts flaking, peeling off. Literally, if you sneeze on the painting, that thing probably going to fall apart. And then the interesting bit is actually when I had a look at a certain angle, I mean, I had to desaturate the image, you can see a movement of cleaning that occurs. You can see on the top right itself, there is a hand movement or gesture that some level or some time during the care at the museum, I'm not faulting, or even before the acquisition of the painting, can happen there because I asked Pak Agung, was there any attempts of cleaning of this painting because the damage is occurred because the predicament about cleaning a painting of this nature is because if we understand how these painters that follow a style. This is the name, which is like Pierre Mondrian, Georges Braque, and so forth. They do fast painting. That means the medium doesn't settle long enough to dry properly. So the problem with paintings that arrive from 1920s, 1930s occur, this is in the literatures as well, is there is a flaking or damage can be easily being occurred onto any painting then, particularly oil on board, because wooden board like this had one issue. This painter painted it fast. There is a certain reading into this, which is also mentioned in the book, that he's doing it for commercial reason. There are many factors that lies occurs on this part. If you do fast painting particularly, and he took it from different sources, and then the peeling is obviously that. It's a thumb size, nearby the artist's signature. And we see the lifting. Usually oils do not lift from paint, from a wooden fiber, unless if it's painted and quickly varnished over. The problem with it is what we call it as abiotic sort of abiotic nature. The wood in a temperamented temperature would expand, contracts, and then the moisture within it is being trapped, hence the separation between oil painting and the wood. Okay, so those are the technical things. Hopefully I don't put you to sleep on this part. So we have a look about the influence of it. Now, this is an important bit. The whole idea about how he painted, like he has so many various forms, and I look at his selections of friends, Charles Sayers, Henry van Veldhuizen, his colleagues actually, and I'm trying to understand why he does what he does, a stylization of the Wanita Sulawesi. So, like I said, like there is a modernist movement. The style is pretty much started from composition by Pierre Mondrian, and then there is also the usage of a certain color or acrid hue, or the tonalities of colors itself, what we call it as a toxic color on skin. We can see this in Henri Matisse's work as well, especially a woman we had, which is his wife, and the green stripe that is on Madame Matisse. Now, the idea about the green line, which is actually, if you study art history, if you're the student of art in painting, there is a reason. There's about there. When you use an acrid green, sorry, it's not color balance or correction, on the surface of the nose, you destroy or you delineate shadows. Depth is being flattened. That's where the experimentation occurs, because it has an influence. If you look into Pierre Mondrian's work, in which the composition and color, so is Georges Braque, is where they took over from Picasso's still life with the chair canes. And then the whole idea here is to know the existence of the object, but it's been decentralized and the space has been spread out. It is an impressionistic, post-impressionistic, and experimentation about it. So that means is acknowledging that thing exists, but without illustrating it. They were trying that one out. So that is why one of the big factors that occurs throughout this painting, there's one particular area in which I took specific interest, and it's also been mentioned in the chapter in the book, in which the red line, there's that thing. Now, in that red line, which is a very disturbing piece, when I have a look at the painting, why does it bother me so much? Because the thing about how all these other artists work, when the style or the movement of it, when they use red, red is the most unnatural color then. It's very disruptive. It's never part of any painting per se. If you're painting the usual scenes and colors of the past, and it has a certain blockade, that means it exists. It creates the imbalance. It has presence. It represents nothing or something else that is nothing to do with the painting. So that's a question mark. It's not being answered. Even as I've been trying to wrap my head around it, there's no way in the world. It's like, why is it there in the first place? Which I'm going to explain as we explore forward. Because the red line is like, I'm not going to be too attentive towards it, but it exists. And this is portraits. And there is a mixture as well in regards to how it came about in between the portraits of these two women, and then you have all the abstraction that occurs all throughout the body of reference. So within that, we try off a bit of experimentation, the infrared. Okay, those are oil paint. This is pretty much an experimentation that we did. Oil paint, you have watercolor, pastel, and acrylic as well. The thing about infrared, if you do it with the equipment, you can see through paintings on a very surface layer, usually around 4 to 8 microns, depending on how much the nanometer or the filtration that occurs towards it. As you can see, the numbers being painted over, but with infrared, you can see what's underneath, laying beneath it, usually carbon. Okay, so this means that we can see what's going on underneath the painting. To some level, it's not exactly X-ray, but it's the non-destructive process that we can see, that we can use while being mobile, heading towards the museum. So when we have a look towards this painting, of course, the front is one thing, the back is another story on its own. Don't worry, I'm just skipping quite fast. So okay, looking at the back, there's nothing, almost invisible, but there's something else that occurs behind it. There is actually I found that once we look back into the painting, this is the front, sorry, I skipped that one, but there is a story to it, and we can see that red line. I'll reveal this in a bit. Now, the red line, as you can recall on the right, most of the modernist painter paint geometric form as an afterthought. That means at the center of it is pretty much the design portrait, and then the rest comes in later. You can see the trees and so forth. But apparently, upon using the infrared, that red line, that blockade was predetermined. It's designed before the paint touched onto the wooden plate. So that means everything's designed. He's sketched from somewhere, for sure, but in regards to the geometric, it's also intendedly designed. It's not an afterthought. That means the movement of him experimenting is all there. So this is true in terms of underlay and overlay towards it. So, back to behind it, upon X-ray we found the name of the painting. Now, upon close inspection, when we look at it, the writing itself, I think I had a good discussion with Encik Azrul. We knew that this sort of format of writing is within the school of in the Netherlands, wasn't it, Azrul?
As part of the Dutch curriculum, there is actually a specification on how to write your glyphs, how to form alphabets. So they form based on that. So there is a guide on how to write. So it follows this format.
Because it's a very Dutch writing. And then there is coincidentally on the top part, you have a name, Twee Batas Vroin, which I'm going to translate that in a bit. Two forms of writing. One is at the center itself, which is a different manner of writing. It looks like she have a different carbon sheen, probably being written on two separate occasions of time. This is something of a finding which we did. So the name of it is pretty much, we had it renamed. It's a feat on its own. It's not easy to retitle a painting that is across the water, owned by the Indonesians. Tak senang tau, ada cerita dia. Kencang juga. Tapi okay, so we had retitled the work, in which it explains quite a bit, and then also we fixed up, and then it is belonging to the collection of the Agung Rai Museum, in which is called Twee Batas Vroin, which is Dua Wanita Batavia, or two Batavian women. Again, I spoke to this with the museum. They say they don't look like Batavian women. Pula. But the writing is there. So the argument ensues. Should we seek a new title? No. I said, we have it remain as what the artist intended. Tui Batas Voin is the new title. So we had this retitle over there, in which also coincidentally, oh, it's already cut off, Wanita Sulawesi, maybe it's the font, and it's Tui Batas Voin, which is Dua Wanita Sulawesi, or Dua Wanita Batavia, or two Batavian women. Okay. So it was being covered by the news. There were mixed review. I can reveal it here because one thing for sure, it was not an easy feat. I think I'll put it in short. There were some of it, Team Malaysia telah menjumpai, Team Malaysia, Team Malaysia menjumpai hasil karya lukisan adalah bukan Indonesia, adalah milik Malaysia. Sudah. It's like how the title caption. Saya pun kena wrong caption. So, no, I didn't intend it to be. So, in short, okay lah. It was a lot of positive review. I mean, like, it's a revealing bit because Pak Agung mentioned nobody in Indonesia had retitled work except for us during that said time. It's not to say that it's bragging right, but I think it's quite important and significant finding as well because it became as unraveling bit. Okay, this is cerita painting saja. So there is an origin to this. Now, some are familiar, pernah tengok gambar. Now we're talking about if we go back into the era of things. Now I thought I was looking into painting because my background is in photography or photo historical process. I thought I was done. Okay, great. Rename a painting, but let's look deeper. So there is this one particular effort in the colonial. This goes throughout in the British Empire, which they do. The 20th century impression. This is a grand book, grand volume book that tells about the stories of their the colonized countries, in which they do it as a display, as an advertisement for institutions, for magna business people, so that they can come and invest in Malaya or in Siam, or even the Dutch Indies or Indonesia as well. They do have it as well, in which they commission one particular company, G.R. Lambert and Company, in which G.R. Lambert and Co. Harga buku dia hari ni. Not cheap lah, eh? It's not your usual Amazon punya number. But this book was being sold, even then was very expensive. When this compendium, in which it stood as noted, received by in London itself, that book contains 3,464 images. I would imagine it's even by today's standard, and it was commissioned in 1906, December, and it was being delivered in 1907. 3,000 gambar, 3,464 images, not inclusive with other studios that they engage with. I said, that is impossible. How can one do 3,000 over images, dry plates during that time? Very few will be in medium using celluloid film, but most are using dry plates. So the price of then was £35 sterling. £35 sterling, if considering the Bank of England inflation, by today's price is £3,500. Nak beli buku £3,000 kita beberapa kali. So it's a very expensive book for anybody to simply own. So it is a very, very much prestigious sort of publication that occurs there. This is quite true as well, and some of the institutions already contain this particular book. So within that book, page 223, if I'm not mistaken, there's this particular image, in which is entitled, the caption here says, "The Noble Malay Ladies." But within that image also contains a very much a G.R. Lambert way of signature, the ladies of His Highness Sultan of Perak. Okay, there you go. Itu satu hal lagi ya. Okay, let's go deeper. I am still going deeper. It's a rabbit hole. Okay, so I went deeper. It's like 3,000 over images. G.R. Lambert can't do it within 1 year. he must have commission. But it's quite normal. Commissioning works during that said time. So when we speak about it, it's like it's a photograph. So okay. So let's have a look, see who they got it from. This is where Encik Azrul as well had revealed one source. This is the His Highness Cik Uteh. Okay. This is a Tunku Permaisuri Cik Uteh Maria binti Haji Sulaiman, the second wife of Sultan Idris, yang pertama of Perak. Beautiful portrait, beautiful lady. But the interesting bit about it as well is she has an elegance to her, and we can see the fashion that she instilled is a kebarong itself, and then there is a certain ceremonial wear that she has. Those who are master into textile would know this better than me. So with this, when we look at it, apparently, I jumpa lagi gambar origin. This is G.R. Lambert, circa that was being published in 1908. And this one, the two Malay court ladies of the Sultan of Perak, circa 1900, in Ulstein built in Berlin by Otto and George Haeckel, or the Haeckel brothers. I just around with Encik Azrul kata kalau korek lagi berapa jauh lagi dia subuh. It's like literally. So this particular plate is in Germany. In Berlin, Germany itself. So the difference between the two are there. Were there appropriation of it? There is a level of signatory editorial process that occurs towards here. So when we have a look, so then G.R. Lambert commissioned and actually bought the rights and used the image, normal. So it's quite known during that said time. So that's what they do, and it's a fair game. So when I look at it, okay, let's see how far did the editorial process went. So this is the crop part. That means the editorial took a consideration to crop out kiranya somewhat, it's more of a captioning or appropriating towards the newsletter paging and so forth, paginate, and there is a constant dodging, burning. This is old photography language of trying to balance out, because we knew when we look at the past, you can see the grass here is pretty much quite burnt out, but whereas in G.R. Lambert's are quite fitted in towards the right tonality as well. So the right contrast that it evolved that is evocatingly good to be published. So that's how it goes. But then, okay, that's the cropping. So once an image is cropped, to those who are into the areas of photography would know, does a cropped image considered as a new image? That remains as an ongoing debate back and forth between the photographer and the printer. Okay, that's one. Let's go another layer deeper. There's a whole lot more fun here now, isn't it? Bila otak tu bergerak kan, literally that. Now, something about photography in the past. This is a reminder to all who is looking into an old orthochromatic photograph. Colors are read differently. Warna berbeza ataupun berbeza. Because in orthochromatic process, the red is black, the blue is white. That's how chemicals read color. Skin tone is different. It doesn't favor to those who has brown skin or darker skin tone. So we see here just an exemplar. Okay, you can see that the apples look starkly negro black, as one would say, and then you have the blue, which is like blown out white. So that's the nature of balancing how black and white reads color. But this is also chromatic, not the modern film black and white. So that means something here. So that's how colors are being read. So just a quick crash course into it. This is how I see color, because I've been doing hand painting as well. Based on color, this is the closest projection of what the ladies will be wearing. She will be, one thing for sure, the standing ladies wearing a very dark maroon. Sorry, the color representation is not good here. This is more towards light green or light bluish hue they be wearing. And then this is what we call it, jahitan, what was it? Jahitan 1000 or 100? I can't recall. I talked to those who are master in textile. She said that even her lower part of sarung was very ceremonial and very expensive type of sarung that she would wear, and usually the hue and colors of it is either dark maroon, dark blue, or dark green. The material such fabric that is quite common in the Nusantara area. So colors is important because this is how colors are being seen. So this is a projection, but however, it goes back as well, back and forth between the painting. So as we can tell, let me go back just a bit, so not, I think we can, hold on. Let me just go forward. I think I went too far to the back. So if we see colors itself, it has a different representation of things when we see the Wanita Sulawesi. Is it not playing? Well, I guess we can go ahead. Oh, that's too far. No. Here we are. We'll see in the comparison a bit. In a moment. Right after the postmoderning, because as you can recall just now, in terms of the painting itself, the sash of the sitting lady was in red. That means is one thing, the painter haven't seen the sitter in person. No way in the world that it can be in red, because in photography itself, it was in bright white or blown out almost on highest highlights that you can see. So that means that she's wearing something bright. How can the painter paint it red when she's not wearing towards the case? So there is a two hazard guess possibility. The painter get it from a postcard, which is a common thing in the past, or this particular person have seen the book itself from G.R. Lambert, because the whole composition of the painting is based on G.R. Lambert, not Haeckel. So we go straight forward into the postmodern league. This is the fun part. Ingat tak ni? Dua Wanita Melayu. This particular copy that we study over at Pia Dasa Gallery in University Malaya. The closest that we can see an exemplar is an edition of 200, and this is number 30 of Reza Pia Dasa's work. Because we got really curious and we want to see if the red line's there and so forth, and of course it's there. And we can see the very vivid similarities. Now, this is Reza Pia Dasa that was being printed in anywhere between 1984 to 1988. Some can go up to 1995, depending on which edition. So Pia Dasa did this in 1984, 1 year after the acquisition by Agung Rai in 1983. So somewhere, I believe so, the late Pia Dasa probably had went in Bali and saw this work and copied it, because it's just 1 year apart. So then, of course, this is what we call appropriation. Nanti sekejap lagi nak debate about how it goes, is fine. Because one thing for sure is a common thing, appropriation does happen. The law or intellectual property law only kicks in right after 1985 or early 1990s. And then people start harping about who contains the right. But prior to it is a normal thing. Mass culture, visual culture of the past, everybody cedo from somewhere. It's normal because there's no lawful engagement in terms of some sort of economic damages and so forth. Those are calculated much later in the game. So when we see Pia Dasa's work, I see it as a level of appropriation. So okay, Pia Dasa took from Jean Franck. And actually, when we studied even deeper, we found something new. So in which, when we see how Pia Dasa's work, in part of the Malaysian series, which contains quite numerous reference to the old memento, and then the big question is, why did Pia Dasa did this work? I said motivation and intention depends. There are many various writings that cover it. I think Serena Abdullah over at USM did a thorough writing in regards to this. And of course, there are some disparity in terms of joining the past and the present using what we call it as, I do not know, I think there was a bit, probably there is some comments I would say, there was some saying that his work is somewhat like Andy Warhol, but I said, nah. I mean, like, if he follows Jan Frank, Niemand Verdred, which carries almost a similar mapping of the style, then there is a modernist approach to it, but he's using different medium, which is a printmaking medium. So that's different. So that's the whole intention of things. Well, going deeper as well, I want to point out the difference. This is the photograph, Jan Frank, Piadasa. Something that is visually jarring. In Piadasa's work, no way Piadasa get this much from the painting. But from the photograph, ada detail. That's one. Now, okay, the sash or the kain selendang may not have the whole thing. Let's look at the arm. Piadasa's on the right, which there's a gold bangle, but in Jan Frank, there's only the paper, no gold bangle, but in the photograph, there is a gold bangle, but no paper. The feet of the standing lady, there are details in the toes, no details at all in the painting, there are details as well in the photograph. Now, Piadasa's on the right, he took from Jan Frank, but not from the photograph. There is a bit of argument right there. For me, that I call it nakal. It's an incidental genius. So he took from two sources. He hits it away, for sure. Did he copy from Jan Frank 100%? No. He copied from photograph, partially. So there is a bit of a tug, push and pull. So there is a different interpretation. Did he take it entirely from Jan Frank? I wouldn't agree. I mean, like, there is an element of photography in there because he's doing printmaking. So he appropriated from dual sumber, two sources, which renders it, this is statistical probability, that he renders it from two different sources that makes up the two Malay women. And also, why did he title it Two Malay Women? Why didn't he return it to the noble ladies or the ladies of His Highness Sultan of Perak? Dua wanita Melayu. So that I open it to you guys, yang kaki academy, go about your debate. Because nomenclatures, namings are different field entirely. It is a game of perception, geopolitical juga. So there's quite fair game to those who can understand because this is where Piadasa, I think, this is my thinking, that he uses the theory of Humi Baba, the third space, where the artwork and that space, the mind kat dalam tu, he plays around and title will interpret what the viewers will see. So it's quite significant and important as well, because if you title something, it's already wrongly titled, not wrongly, but mistitled. Wanita Sulawesi, Tui Batas, Royan, Dua Wanita Batavia, and now you have, Dua Wanita Melayu. The similarities are there. So, you have three that comes into play. Does that means it devalues one's work? No, I wouldn't say so. I mean, it depends on the collectors. It depends on how things are appropriated. This is appropriation. So this is one medium jumps to another. So we had retitled the painting. Now we have that. So there is an interplay of things. There are meanings of things. Because I think one of Piadasa's work is not creation of art in existence, but it is the meaning that being manifested from it. So how does it fair play in the Malaysian series? That one I think is quite substantially done up in the writing. So this is where I think how we look at it in such a way, this pieces of artwork unravels. It reveals itself in another way. Names are important. If I wrongly name Azrul as Azrael, wait, not Fala. Yeah, ada similarity, yeah. That's okay. So there you go. I mean, like, it does give a a fortune or misfortune towards identification of things and expectations of things as well. I think this is where I like this will be in the book itself, which is available out there, in which I like to end this open lecture, because or else it'll be technical. I can go on for 3 or 5 hours, but that's not the case here. But I would like to thank you as well for having me over, and actually I leave it to the moderator or Cik Azrul want to jump in to go on to the discussions of things. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Azrul. I told you, it's a very fascinating sort of a trilogy to see such a journey, I think this is the most forensic investigation I have heard about nation artwork, particularly on Piadasa. I'll pass the mic to Azrul. Silakan.
This was, I think, probably one of the most fascinating research projects I've got myself involved in. It was a project that I did not expect to be involved in, but somehow got involved in. And I think the key behind the whole process is a constant state of curiosity. You know, I began my early work as a field researcher 30 years ago. Field meaning I go out, I cari data, right? I don't go through books. I go out and look for hardcore information, interviews, meeting people, measuring. So this was an interesting adventure, because we now have a book. Now, the 20th century impressions of British Malaya, I just had a short chat with a gentleman outside just now about this book. And the first time I actually saw an actual copy of this was about 25 years ago. And it belonged to a notable person, which I shall not name. And he bought this book in London. So I've seen this book. It is incredibly well made, incredibly detailed, beautiful paper, beautiful leather binding. It has probably the most dense information about Malaya I have ever seen in my life. It's better than any book I've ever seen. So the material in it covers, you know, everything from culture, commerce, activities of the time. That includes notable people, kerabat, tauke, it's everything. It's one of the most fascinating books. So I saw that book 25 years ago, not knowing I would have to revisit its contents again. And I think that was interesting, because when I ended up in Bali to have a look at the painting at Arma, and with that information about the Piadasa piece and the photograph, I'm like, something is going on here. You can't have 3 images that are so alike. I brought up the topic of the idea of familiarity, similarity, and where there may be a fine line between that and appropriation or plagiarism, right? These are very closely interlinked in some way or another. So we have a little bit of a mystery, and we have to try and figure out what is going on. So we spent a fair bit of time getting permission to document the painting at the museum in Bali. We had multiple requests for normal still photographs to do measurements. In fact, the original measurement in the plate on the wall was actually wrong. So we actually remeasured the painting with the correct measurements. So the measurements that you see just now for the painting in Bali are the actual measurements. The one that was on the wall was actually wrong. We remeasured everything, and we managed to get permission to get the painting taken down and also flipped over to have a look at it. And I think this is the part that we did not expect. Because when we when we were having a look at it, because my colleague, Dr. Azril, actually noticed there was a very faint trace on the back of this painting. It's barely noticeable to the eye. And that's the reason why we brought in the infrared equipment to take these photographs. It was quite interesting to revisit infrared again, because I used to do infrared photography about 30 odd years ago in the early 90s on film, right? So now we've come into the digital era, and you can actually still do infrared today. In fact, to some degree, with much better quality and accuracy than you could get with film. But it revealed text. And this is, I think it has been sort of our, inherent element of curiosity. We keep looking at not just what's in front, but we also look at what's sebalik. Actually, very often what is behind can provide information you would not expect. It's just like macam in the old days you have a postcard, right? In the front is a nice picture on the front, but at the back is a short message, or the name of the person, or the stamp where it was sent from. So if you're going to look at the provenance of an artwork or document, very often you actually also have to look at the back of it, not just what you see in front. What you see in front is prima facie. What you see is what you get, right? So if you're going to go and do any research, you have to look at all of it. And I think we made so many requests to take that painting down for the measurements, for the pictures, and we were very fortunate that Arma Museum and Pak Agong were very, very, they were willing to indulge our requests, because not many museums are willing to let people in to, document paintings of that nature that many times, especially something that was incredibly fragile. The painting is incredibly fragile. Now, the wood substrate that painting is on, I'm not a specialist on timber, but I mean, based on our observation, this is not a quintessential hardwood, right? Now, that's likely the reason why you have a lot of moisture ingress, because it's not a hardwood. In fact, we were looking at it and we thought somebody probably yanked this off from a cabinet somewhere. It's not a high quality hardwood. And that's the thing that caught me. Now, I have painted, most people know me as a photographer, but I actually used to paint, right? And I used to do oils back in the 80s. And I have done oils on wood. And if it is done well, it should sit properly, it should last if you choose a good quality wood. If it is something that's incredibly porous and not of good quality, when the moisture ingress goes through, the paint is going to lift, which is what's going on with the painting at Arma. It is starting to lift. So yes, we spent a lot of time trying to digest all of this. This is more material. But then we go back to the photograph. We go back to the piece that I had photographed in Piedasa Gallery, right, which was, I think, number 30, which you saw just now. That was actually printed in 1985. And we have the Niman Sudret painting. So we have three images that are incredibly alike. And I think this is what started this element of curiosity among us. What's going on? Who has copied who? Who has appropriated who? But I think the key here is there is a massive gap in the time frame between each of these images, right? You have an image a photograph that dates from the turn of the century. You have a painting from the 20s, and then you have a silkscreen print from 1985. Now, the thing is, if you think about, for me, this is my opinion about silk screens. A lot of silkscreen artists, well-known ones, they often work with imagery that is recent, right? Dr. Azril spoke about Andy Warhol earlier. Now, Warhol is probably most famous for his pictures of Marilyn Monroe and lots of other public figures actors, actresses, politicians. You've seen the ones of Mao. I'm pretty sure you're familiar with Andy Warhol. Now, what is the average age of an image between it being published and when Warhol turned it into a silkscreen? The difference on average is 3 years when the picture came out to the Warhol silkscreen, which means the image is in the public gaze, it's in the public eye, it is a photograph that people know. We have seen it, it's recent. The shortest span between an image coming out and a silkscreen was 1 year. That's for one of his images. And the longest one I ever found in his collection was only 4 years. And it's also true that quite a few of his silkscreens also come from his own Polaroids, which he shot himself. There are also some that are from publicity stills. Yes, a lot of them do come from publicity stills. But these were images that were in the public eye. They were publicity stills from movies. Kebanyakan lah, you know, they're from films. So yeah, now we have 3 images that have fairly big gaps between them, right? And I've always believed that time, right, a shift in time, you know, in time, people tend to forget. And time can also at times be used to obfuscate because we forget. So I'm not sure what the intentions are here, but this is just something that played on my mind. Why is there such a huge gap between the source image, a subsequent painting, and a silkscreen? And he used both of them. And I think my final note before we continue is, I think this is one issue that also came up in our discussion, is the issue of identity. Because the subjects, as shot by Gerald Lambert and the Haeckel brothers, right, were clearly identified as members of the Perak royal family. In fact, a few years ago, I think about 6 years ago, the Perak royal family, I think, were involved with a book about Perak royalty. And in fact, that Gerald Lambert picture appears in that book. It was launched, I think, 2018 or 2019 by Sultan Nazrin. So they acknowledge that it is a member of the Perak royal household. So the colonials did it, but a Malaysian artist did not. He did not. He just said that to Malay women. He did not acknowledge the fact that they are members of the royal family. So again, you know, it does beg the question of is there some level of obfuscation of identity? So these were some of the many things that we were thinking about while we were going through this. There are many layers. Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Azrul. That's a very lengthy and I have no idea at the beginning when I was looking at Pia's work, particularly on Malaysian series. I was thinking that this is another version of Pia's mischief attempt to poke the cultural. Pia himself is a result of Sri Lankan diaspora, and the cultural multinational issue has always been his subject. And today, I think Pia has gone further off the limit when he brought the royalties. And one thing is, as well, I talked to Mimi. Mimi is a wife of a good friend Nizam, and they're from a royal family of Perak. And I did ask this question, since you bring it up, I did ask a question about this about the Malay woman. Why can't Pia call based on the royal title? And the reason being, she said to me, you have to get permission from the palace in order to claim that the title of the royalty title. So I always assume that Pia would just generalize that into a Malay woman rather than or on the other hand, well, I have to bring this out of my chest. I think Yeah, it's up to something here, Dr. Azriel, if we can, maybe, before I open it to the floor. Yeah, it's, we all know how, how mischievous, when I say mischievous, or how, because Pia is always, to me, I know Pia personally, he's always an artist scholar, and whenever his mind work on something, especially in regard to culture and nation issue, the topic of belonging, the topic of dislocation, and the topic of geopolitics has always increased his idea of provoking the sentiment, like kind of sway the sentiment or provoking or the issues of Malay identity. And I think plus up to something when he appropriate or he plagiarized, or whichever we like to call it, on the Malay woman. And I don't know whether this issue or this concern part of these discussions today, or maybe when we open to the floor. I think the idea of I was talking to Pastor before, and she said that this debate was not about Pia, so much about Pia's work, but we can't help but thinking that, like as we said here, we can't help but thinking that there are some elements of plagiarism, there are elements of appropriation in the attempt to provoke the issue that we are always been highlighting. So again, I think I answered Azri before I asked we are open to the floor. I asked Azri here. Do you think Pia is up to something here? When it comes to, I know you look at Pia as an artist, as a scholar, but on your personal view, do you think Pia have that sense of, I don't know, mysterious, if you can call it? He used to always tell me that Pia is nakal. He's always nakal, intellectually nakal. Can you give your thought on that?
Well, I have to be a bit more diplomatic here.
You don't have to.
Oh, okay, fine. I do not know the late Pia Dasa like some of our good friends here in person. I know about his artwork. I know about the writings that arrive from it. He's working alongside dengan TK Sabapati and Dr. Sulaiman Esa, and then the output from it, some reviews, but I do not know him in depth and in person. And the review is about that work, Dua Wanita Melayu, two Malay women. Now, when I saw the evidence, it's like, of course, here's the thing, dia ambil pada dua sumber. Satu sumber, the novel, Malay ladies. Another one, Wanita Sulawesi. Dua title berlainan. Macam ambil sumber dari dua karakter berlainan. But he called it Wanita Melayu. So the intention per se is actually bring it back home. Bawa balik rumah. Through thick and thin, mud and so forth. It's not easy to pull an image and bring it home. Bawa balik. This belongs here. That's what I'm gathering from this engagement. I can say, I can't say much about the Baba family or the Sinhalese pictures that he printed out because this is specific to that. So I understand that well enough that he brought it home. That's what so far the assumption or hazard guess is.
Well, I think I bukan disagree lah. I have an assumption here, very mature actually. Being in UK for, I think Pia was in London in between 63 and 67, and studied there. And I was at the slave during my early years. And as a Malaysian artist, as an art student, we wander around the flea market, we wander around Portobello, we wander around Nottingham to look for colonial relics. And we know that I think you majority of amateur, 2,500 copies of this postcard have been distributed all over Europe, and possibility of Pia might have discovered one postcard in some flea markets and bring it back to the studio or maybe keep it for a certain period of time and he come back and he sort of replicate this into our own. That's one possibility. I don't know whether Pia actually seen work from France. Maybe to me, I don't know. Maybe the only source that Pia has, this is my hypothetical view, that it's only from the photograph or the postcard that's been distributed by the greater publishing all over Europe or all over London. Is that can be based as a
Based on the last few slides, he took from two sources. The red line is there, as we see. There is Jan Frank Niemann Swedish work.
even in the postcard?
Postcard doesn't have that red line. Then all the flatness that occurs in the background is pretty much blueprint from Jan Frank. But then there are elements that is not in the painting, that is in the photograph, that is in Pia's work. So it's a combination of the two. When I see as some level of incidental genius, I call it. Because like I mentioned earlier, because like for an artist who, macam ni lah, you have the noble Malay ladies that is originally, we know for sure, they are from Malaya. And then you have Jan Frank's work, which says Wanita Sulawesi, which he saw most likely after Pak Agung bring it back in 1983, because he started to print that in 1984, which actually agrees with Encik Azrul's assumption just now. Printmakers always print something that he just recently see. Probably that's not the case per se, because he prints it with all the elements that is surrounding the painting that he just recently saw, and he reinforced it with the found postcards that is from the selection that was being said.
Okay, I've opened it to the floor. Thank you, Azrul. Very interesting. I read this quotation here by, I think by Azrul juga about this, the first, you're talking about the familiarity just now. You're talking about the familiarity. The first one will be incidental, or the second will be the coincident, and the third will be a pattern, right? When pattern is concerned, there's some issue behind it, something need to be revealed. So, sekarang is open to the floor, if we may, because this is a very interesting topic. People, if you don't take this opportunity to ask, I think we're going to miss this. We're going to miss this love. Can I open to the floor? Saya tahu Yudi nak bertanya, tapi yes, silakan. If you can get the mic to the lovely ladies over there. Tak payah mic, eh?
We can pass this mic. Can pass this.
Oh, you have a great voice.
Thank you so much. That's so interesting. I have two questions.
Hello.
Oh,
Sorry. I have two questions. The first question is, how did this particular painting catch your attention so much that you did so much work to investigate? Because I've been to so many art galleries and I want to learn how to appreciate art more, but I would have probably just walked past it. Is it because you already saw an earlier reference in Azrul, like you were saying, that triggered that interest and that curiosity to go in? So that's my first question. How do we get more curious about things and know where to look when we're going around? And the second question I have is, I work in the film and TV space where copyright and copyright protection is a big thing. And the reason for that is we're trying to protect the value of the work. So when we talk about appropriation versus plagiarism, this is an interesting concept for me. And does it actually affect the economical value of those three works. That's why the discussion is relevant. I was just wondering. Thank you.
Okay, speaking about economic value and appropriation and plagiarism, I think you would probably be very familiar with a case in the States. And it's a relatively recent case. I think that's the one with, what's his name again? It's Obama Hope, I think. No, the one with, it's quite a recent one. I forgot his name. Anyway, there's one other case which I'll bring up. Michael Bolton. You should dig up that case. Because, you see, this is the part I mentioned earlier, Kan. Familiarity, similarity, and how this goes. Because there have been quite a few cases where, say, musicians may write a piece of music, and they may sample something in that music, and genuinely believe that it's original, right? Now, this is where it gets interesting. I mean, like I've told people, influence comes, I always say this, influence comes out the moment you pop out from the womb. The moment you're born, you are being influenced. You listen to the music your mom and dad play, the color of the curtains in your house, the cultural norms of the family, the things you learn in school, the friends you mix with. Now, some small element of music or imagery or film can sometimes register at a highly subliminal level, right? The subconscious. Maybe 20 years later, say you write a piece of music, and somehow this little tune plays in the back, and it gets put down, published, and recorded. And then an artist from 1962 says, hey, that's from me, which is what happened to Michael Bolton, right? So that case was a protracted case. It did last quite a while. It's tricky to try and put down things to, that level of appropriation / plagiarism. I think in the music industry, typically it's like you shouldn't take more than 3 bars. Or 30 seconds, right? 3 bars or 30 seconds. That's, yeah, right? So, no, that's the thing. Does it degrade its economic value? I guess you could also ask the same thing about Milli Vanilli, right? Yeah. Well, this is actually a topic that can potentially go on for hours. But would it detract from its value? My answer, this is my opinion, it's up to the market. The market determines the value. The collectors determine the value. I don't think anyone can dictate what something is worth, because what it is worth is what someone is willing to pay for it. I mean, there's a very famous artist that used to paint in a style of most well-known painters from the 20s, 30s, 40s, and part of the 50s. Émile de Hory, right? Émile de Hory was a French artist hiding in Ibiza in Spain, right? Today it's a party place, but in the 1970s, it was a quiet fishing village. He would paint pieces in the style of Matisse, Picasso, Braque. Often, put it this way, they're painted in his style, but they're not copies at all. They're painted in a style. Galleries bought these pieces from him for kind of cheap, and then passed it off to collectors as missing originals from Picasso or Matisse or Braque. So they are not plagiarized in the sense that they are copies, because they're not copies. The style was plagiarized. Now, many galleries and museums actually had these Émile de Hory pieces sitting there. And collectors were buying them. They were buying them. Now, of course, subsequently in 1974, I think, Orson Welles made a film called F for Fake, right? And they ended up interviewing Émile de Hory. And he said, I've never copied a painting because I just paint in a style, but it's not a copy. It's not plagiarism. Plagiarism is a photostat copy. They're exactly the same. right? Identical. Now, what happened after the film came out? It now unraveled that a whole bunch of galleries and museums in Europe actually had images that were not actually from Picasso or Braque or any of these famous artists. Now, what happened subsequently after the film came out? The police got interested. They went looking for him, and he committed suicide. Yeah, he committed suicide. Now, this is where it gets interesting. He painted live pieces for the camera for this film. And after painting them, he burnt them in front of the camera. He painted all kinds of stuff and he burnt it. But these pieces are out there. Now, after he died, right, in fact, what some people got interested in was his own original paintings, because Emile Dehori did paint pieces of his own. And actually, they're somewhat collectible because he was quite a character in his day. So again, this film came out around 1974 and 1975. The market will determine the value. I always say that. The value of anything, a painting, a house, a collectible of any kind, baseball cards, Pokemon cards, vintage cars, the market will determine the value. Yeah. So that answers your second question. The first question, do you want to answer that one?
Well, I'll answer it short.
Technically, Dr. Azrul was the first person that bumped into the painting in Bali, not me. He did. He bumped into the painting in Bali first.
Right. The aspiration why I continue chasing this one is because I think I mentioned it during the early part of the open lecture. When I got really excited, that I thought it's a Piadasa's piece. From afar, say, hey, it's Arma is quite a known gallery next to Nekor Gallery, and I say, wow, they have a Piadasa. There is a bit of nationalistic pride. Okay. When I looked closer and saw the caption, the disappointment that it's not a Piadasa. In fact, it becomes as a question mark. It feels like you know somebody and you approach and you swear that that person is who you think it is and it's not. And then I start digging and say, who is this artist? He's a Dutch painter and so forth. And then there are clues that comes along in the statement, well, by the curator, well, this is not exactly how Sulawesi women dresses up. Okay. So then more questions, and it arrives almost obsessively there. Can I say is that literally every waking hour moment, I'll be typing, I'll be researching about this. It's just like all the breadcrumbs that falls in its place. And it took this long to assemble it that way, and we understood. And in fact, as one would tell, the more you know, the more things we do not know. That seems to be like, okay, there are many more questions. So I don't think I have the energy to go after into this rabbit hole. So, so it does unravel a lot. And then the causality of it as well, when we saw the name, the original name of the painting is at the back, which is a different name. And it's a fantastic thing to look at it this way. Like, let's propose to the owner, the founder of the museum, we're going to retitle one of your paintings. You imagine like the nervousness, the anxiety attack that I have. It's like, oh, who are you? And it's like literally, you're from the other side of water. But no, he was very pleasant and he's very supportive, and that's a blessing on his own. So that keep us going towards that direction.
Well, sorry, if I may ask you, did you, that first encounter, extension from that, I'm so curious, the first encounter with that piece, the piece of work, is there any sense of disappointment, whether, or betrayal? You think, this is not Pia, and I like, the mixture between patriotism and a sense of betrayal you have, probably, that bring you to go further into the rabbit hole. I sense some vindictive element in you here. I'm going to find this out. I'm going to find the truth. I'm going to reveal to the whole world that Pia is up to no good. Something like that. I don't know.
I would say the premise, of course, the word plagiarism was that, oh, the Cedo. our school days punya term. The excitement was because that room has a Radin Saleh, a few Radin Saleh, the original Radin Saleh. That's a almost immeasurable value. And you have Piada, that's what I thought, Piadasa. It's like, it's grand of a room. It's a big deal. So, so that got the excitement right there. And then when I say like Cido, plagiarism, of course it goes into play. But along the journey, I came to a realization the concept of plagiarism is a very recent term. So it's commonly okay to copy in the past. In the past, not nowadays. I'm not encouraging it now. Kena saman ni lah, literally.
Well, I think that we would wonder they have a license to kill, don't they?
Well, no, I mean like it's not enforced until mid-80s. The concept of plagiarism, intellectual property comes a bit more later. Prior to it is a common thing. You see this in advertisement, food companies, most of the advertisements around, and give and take, they do copy from somewhere and do not credit as well. So this is a common trait of the past.
Thank you. Very interesting. I open to the floor. I don't want to dominating the seat. Boleh kita buka? Yes. Silakan.
Good afternoon. Good morning. Thank you very much for the sharing. I was wondering whether you're aware that this painting or photography or whatever you call it, it's displayed at Srinagar. Right now, the newly opened Srinagar at Lake Gardens. It's in Gallery 4. Actually, I have a photo of it when I visited. And it's also, if you Google it under Piyadasa, it's listed as under the collection of Khazana. Because Khazana has a gallery on the ground floor, but this particular painting, but I didn't notice the red lighting when I took the photo. It was without the red ray of thing that you mentioned. Yeah, so I'm wondering whether it's similar painting or photograph or what you call it. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Before you answer, I think it's good to know that they have produced basically about 200 pieces of that particular image. In addition, because it's a printmaking, and we have been doing that for past, I think, 3-4 years, replicating the same series. So we can see one in the Ham Gallery, we can see one at the Khazana Gallery collection, and we can even see one at the Banagara collection, all dealing with the same two Malay women. But of course, the color, the composition, the whole formalistic aspect of the work has been changes here and there according to plan. So it's hard to trace one piece except for the one in Bali. As far as Pia's work is concerned, there are many of this series. We call it Mission Series. Part of the Mission Series. Yeah.
And also creative license to do the variants and design. Some of the series, they very focal. He did a frame of reference around the sitter's head, and colors are different as well. So these 200 pieces are not the same. I mean, these are manually as well being made, and he made some variety of changes. Even some would not contain the red line. So it's fine. I guess he practiced what we call as creative license towards that.
Yeah, and mind you, this work was auctioned for I think at the class KL Lifestyle Auction House was hammered at 20,000 during that time, few years back. So I think the more, I don't know whether this back to the question of the value, at least back to the question of the market sentiment that bring the value of the work even to the higher level. And thank you for the question. I hope that answers some. Silakan. No, I think we answered that with the.
if consider the time frame when it was being created, the law of intellectual property was not fully enforced. So if we put it in current term, if that work is being created post 1990s, yes.
Even
By
that
law
is
of
even
language.
that even that is questionable because
I mean, like,
when it comes to the artwork, sorry, when it comes to the artwork, there's always a flaw. It's not just a flaw. Artists interpret because the word interpretation kind of save the artist. Interpretation, reinterpretation, reappropriation. If the word appropriate is already, but artists use many different terms, and on that basis, they got away with it for some reason. I make a lot of plagiarism my whole life as an artist. I based from other artists' work, I changed here and there a little bit, like what Pia did, and I got away. Never a lawyer's letter before, or I never received any lawyers or legal. Okay, I think that shouldn't be an issue. But it's an interesting question. That thank you for bringing that out, Madam. Any other question? Soalan-soalan daripada silakan. Rugi tak tanya, we have to expert, I will call them expert lah, today on this issue, on this topic. Come.
Or maybe
If you don't have, I will ask that sementara tunggu you karang soalan. The original work, both of you, the original work, the Wanita Sulawesi di Bali. When you first, Azrael especially, when you first saw that work, beside being narrated, I will assume that you feel disappointed. Disappointed in a certain sense because it's not Pia's. But you was hoping it was Pia, but it was not. And the mystery goes deeper when you go inside deeper into the rabbit hole. But you must have some, not to say conclusion, you must have some, this is a personal take on this particular work. That when you look at Pia and you look at Frank, Jean-Franc, do you feel that both of them has, Pia himself is not, well, Malay, I'm talking about the Malay or the identity here. Do you think Frank has that same sentiment or same root or same not to say issue lah, besides being a colonial? I try to put this Pia and Frank
okay.
on the same platform here.
Let me begin with Jean-Franc. When he did, well, it wasn't Wanita Sulawesi, Two Bata's Drawing or Two Batavian Women. It was titled Two Batavian Women. Sulawesi, probably there was a mishap between the collector, or maybe Jean-Franc didn't call it Wanita Sulawesi, he called it Two Bata's Drawing. He titled it, he probably penned it down at the back because we saw his writing. And if I assume correctly, he took the image from the photograph, J.R. Lambert. And he not only bukan perempuan Melayu, he said perempuan Batavia, different nation, different colonial state even.
Deliberately out of
Deliberate, because we saw, this is hazard gas, the painting was done fast. Kalau you jual pada orang yang tak tahu rupa wanita Batavia, because the Dutch, I think I had good discussion with Cik Azrul here, you cannot sell it to the Dutch because they know their Indonesian culture. Daripada makanan sampai ke pakai tak boleh bohong. Pandai menyanyi lagu Indonesia pun. This is how the Dutch is. So he probably sold it to a person who has no idea how Wanita Nusantara looks like. He sells what Mui English pun sama, exoticism. Most likely they jual probably to the German. They have no idea how Wanitas Nusantara looks like. No idea difference between that and Malay women and so forth from the royalties of Perak. So it's that one is shrewd. Very nakal. That's what I'm say. So Jean-Franc. So I sort of look at it that you put in a wrong title, the owner it's like Homi Baba theory. This is where I think is similarity to Piadasa, to answer you on this part. Piadasa pun didn't title this. It's around the ballpark, but not accurately lagi. But is he responsible to do that? Yang tu another question mark. I mean, like, are they Malay? Yes, they are. But usually you do not call the people from the royal palace just perempuan Melayu. Tak boleh, actually. Tak elok lah. So this is already also a borderline on ethics and so forth. But I guess it's, like I said, it's up in the air in terms on, if you ask me what is the similarity, is the naming. I mean, visual is one thing. The naming,
Both of them have this.
they had their own approach of things.
Azrul, do you have any take on this?
I don't have as much to say, but I think I had alluded to it earlier. You know, the element of how the obfuscation of identity in itself, you know, can make something commercially viable, right? For the sake of convenient commercialism, to make something up for sale. And I think that's the reason why, I mean, this, I won't say it's definitive. This is just, again, a hazard guess based on what we observe. A painting that's very quickly put together. It has an identity that doesn't seem to actually match its origin. Well, it looks like somebody was trying to make a very quick sale. Now, there is another painting that done by Niman Sadret together with a couple of his colleagues, which was the Dutch governor, right? It's a very classical painting. It was in the presentation somewhere earlier. It's a gentleman standing with a, you know, military-style uniform. If you see that painting up close, it has incredible detail compared to Wanita, Sulawesi. It is not at all a detailed painting. It was assembled quickly. You know, I used to paint oils, and I would know how it would look like if you just want to quickly put something together. It's not going to stand up to scrutiny because oils, they last. So you can see, right? You can see when someone puts in a brush stroke that is meaningful. Because when we were in Indonesia, I was talking to Pak Agong about another painting, right? By it's a painting by Bazuki Abdullah. And if you want to see a Bazuki Abdullah painting, if you really want to see what they're about, you really have to go up close and look at how the colors blend. They are effortless. So this is when an artist is making a very concerted effort to put something together that's well thought out. So Niman Sadret is capable of doing that. Good detailing, but suddenly you have this painting that looks very half-baked on a very half-baked piece of wood, and it has a title that seems to obfuscate the origins of the subject. So as I said, you just have to draw the dotted lines between these things, and I think you can come up with a mental image. You know?
Thank you, Azrul. Still, before, okay, now you have, okay, sorry, okay, silakan. Thank you. First of all, we had few argument in Indonesian on arts, culture, food, but today you give us a very good head start victory within Indonesia, so thank you very much. But and second, you talk about the other side. I agree with you that he don't want to argue that this is who, so he had his own style, so he gave it his name to Malay lady, so I think I agree with you that he know that this is not Batawian or something, so he don't want to argue. He put his own style, put in a painting, he give his personal thought that is Malay. You put a very good job in this thing. I'm not from art, I'm not more on other sector, but maybe you can find other painting that can put us on back also, because people going the whole world on painting. So maybe you have two gentlemen that's very good in
discovering the other side of the coin of the painting. So find some other painting that we write a dear book so that we can be on world map. So thank you very much. I really appreciate what you do on this paint of art. At least if Indonesia argue about nasi lemak secara riset, you have painting there. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir. Silakan. I have to ask you where to ask. Silakan you.
Thought to ponder. I'm just wondering, it's good that we see this painting, you know, because the thing that makes it important is because of Piarasa. If we just imagine if there's no painting but Piarasa, it doesn't mean a thing to us, John Frank, the others. And so that's why my question is, I always ask, why did Pierre do what he does in this case? You know, what makes him do this? And then I think we should see how Pierre works right from the beginning, and then it's then we can see the point that he comes to this point. In the beginning, he always sense of collaboration to him. You know, when he started when he school he started working with Sulawesi. To him is a collaboration, and then he moved to appropriation. Then when he comes to he collaborate with Anwar Rashid. In the beginning, he sees it as a collaboration. He sees all this work is as collaboration besides his portrait drawing. Because if you see Pierre's work, there's about four phases. So I think this comes towards the end, which is the Malaysian series, that to him is another collaboration to him, but then he collaborated with found objects where he appropriate things, and that's why his title also is another form of appropriation too. You know, to me, that's how I see why Piarasa works in this way. And then to me, that's more interesting to me, you know, why he comes to do this. And so, you know, this is just my view. I congratulate Azul for the book.
Thank you. That's what I've been trying to poke Azir, but he has his position well, you know, because he will elaborate more on the issue of Piarasa. On that basis, I think when I did mention this to Azul yesterday over the phone call, I said, when the fact that you both are an artist and a photographer, and we remember when I don't know if you're familiar with Hockney's book on the secret knowledge of the old master, and had not been for his profession, or he's a painter himself, he wouldn't have find out how the work has been done, upon how the technique has been done by this old master. And I will attribute that to both of you, being an artist yourself, being a photographer yourself. It's happy that both of you can come out with this sort of investigation. And I think I agree with you. Out of this investigation, it would be meaningless if it's having for Wanita Melayu. Kalau kita buat karya tentang Wanita Melayu, kalau kita hanya berbincangkan tentang Jean Frank dengan dengan commission work by Lambert, it would mean insignificant to us lah. This is because of the Pierre's work. So the highlight here would be, to me personally as an artist, as a Malaysian artist, is Pierre's work that carry weight, that bring us all here to know, to find out more about this journey or this mystery. And I think I would give another chance ataupun I will close kalau tak ada anybody want to bagi pendapat ke kalau tak ada. Don't you think it's a lovely session today? Having this two gentlemen, knowledgeable gentlemen, and very committed to the research, and it's a very well-spoken individual, both of them. And then I think we should give another round of applause to Dr. Azrul and Azrul for a fantastic presentation. And I hope we have some other recording. I hope this kind of a dialogue should be extended to another level, to the masses. And this is probably the beginning of atap mendengar pun atau apabila bentang nampak satu karya seni dikupas, dissect sampai begini sekali. Dan on that basis, I think we are looking at new beginning of art investigation. It's not about the pricing, it's not about the value, it's not about the collectors or art market. We have to pass that period already. We have to focus on the form itself. We have to focus on the creative practice itself rather than the commodity or the economic part of the art. So on that, I thank you again, all of you, for your time and for being with us. Dengan setia menunggu, walaupun banyak soalan yang tidak dikeluarkan. And terima kasih kepada panel kita hari ini. Dan Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih.
Terima kasih atas perkongsian itu tadi. It's interesting to see Dr. K and Cik Azrul dissecting the layers of their findings. So it was definitely enlightening. Okay, jadi dengan itu maka berakhirlah program kita pada hari ini. Sebelum majlis melebarkan tirainya, majlis dengan sukacitanya ingin menjemput sesi penyampaian cenderamata kepada barisan panel serta moderator sebagai tanda penghargaan atas kesediaan berkongsi ilmu dan pandangan dengan World Lights Shadows of Wanita Sulawesi Park. Dengan ini, majlis ingin menjemput Encik Amiruddin bin Ahmad, Ketua Pengarah Lembaga Pembangunan Seni Visual Negara, diiringi Encik Baktiana Ibn Jaafar untuk menyampaikan cenderamata Bakti Parlimen pada hari ini. Dipersilakan Dr. K. Seterusnya Encik Azrul. Dan juga Prof. Chai. Seterusnya, majlis menjemput semua panel dan moderator untuk bersama-sama di hadapan buat sesi bergambar kenangan. Pihak majlis merangkamkan setinggi-tinggi penghargaan dan terima kasih kepada barisan panel, moderator serta para hadirin sekalian atas kesediaan meluangkan masa untuk menghadiri sesi perkongsian pada hari ini. Semoga segala kebangsaan perbincangan dan perkongsian yang telah berlangsung dapat memberi manfaat. Akhir kata, kami berharap agar kita dapat berjumpa lagi dalam program-program badan seni negara yang akan datang. Sebagai maklumat, jamuan makan tengah hari telah disediakan dan para hadirin dijemput untuk menikmatinya di teras, bahagian teras di belakang galeri. Sekian, terima kasih. Assalamualaikum.